Hello and welcome into another edition of Sitting Down with Sgar. I'm the football voice of the Hoyas, Jeremy Huber, joined by Georgetown head football coach Rob Scarlotta. Coach Scarlotta, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to see you again, Jeremy.
Coach, tough one up in Hamilton. You fall by 10 to Colgate, and you, as long as I've known you, you've talked about in the Patriot League, it normally comes down to a handful of plays, injuries. It's basically the two things. And, quite literally, that game is a different game. Maybe a missed tackle here, maybe there. Did you kind of see it that way, that if you guys make a few more plays, you're coming out of there with a win?
Yeah, you have to give Colgate a lot of credit. They came out and ran the ball extremely well and made plays at the end when they had to. So, for us, we have the ball on the 2-yard line with 2 minutes left and need to score there. And then it gets really interesting. You can go onside or kick it deep with some timeouts. So we look for, the ability to put ourselves in a chance to win the game in the fourth quarter in these Patriot League games. And, we needed to make probably, like you said, 4 or 5 more plays, a couple early in the game in the first half and, definitely a couple at the end there. So, we talked all week. Usually we talk about win or learn. Was able to hear a couple quotes this week and really just trying to leave the event behind and take the lessons this week into practice.
Coach, one more off of that. You mentioned Colgate running the ball as well as they did, 272. It's a tough number. What do they do so well? The Raiders always seem like they find a way to run the football.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. They do a great job of running the ball. And for us, some things that we're cleaning up this week with a couple misfits and a couple just one-on-one battles that we weren't able to win. So I give them a lot of credit, and it gives us the opportunity early in the Patriot League schedule here to get some stuff cleaned up as we get ready for Bucknell this weekend.
Rob, you talk about win or learn. Well, again, some things you can take from that is a lesson of grit. You've got the ball in the second quarter on your own 1-yard line. You're down by a touchdown. You guys go 99 yards for a touchdown. And it wasn't just big plays. It was a very good drive. How pleased were you to see your team kind of come out in that adverse situation and make something good happen?
Yeah, I've said this is coming up on close to 3 decades for me being here coaching. This is one of the most resilient groups. We use the term sisu a lot, which is, having, unbelievable courage in the face of adversity. So for our guys, I don't even think they flinched. That was a situation that we practice each week with being backed up and, especially converting. I think it was a 3rd and 17 on a dig ball to Jimmy Kibble from Danny Louder. It was great to see our guys drive the ball all the way down the field and score there. So, again, like I said, all these Patriot League games come down to a handful of plays, and that's what we're training all week to try to win those, 4 or 5.
Coach, you mentioned Jimmy Kibble and another fantastic game for him. Big-time yardage, 2 touchdown catches again. How does he keep raising his play?
Big-time players want the ball in tough situations. Jimmy's one of those guys that'll do anything for his teammates. He blocks as well as anybody else does on the edge, and when you give him an opportunity to make a play on the ball, he's been consistent all year. One of the most impressive things, I think, is just Jimmy's yards after the catch. He's extremely difficult to get on the ground once he catches a hitch ball or a dig ball or a comeback. So his effort is outstanding throughout the week, and that's what translates into his success on Saturdays.
Coach, you talk about getting guys on the ground. Giancarlo Rufo did that on Saturday, 13 tackles, and he was the guy who came in, and I remember you kind of saying, this kid's got a chance to really be special, and it seems like he's living up to those expectations. What has he done to kind of maximize his potential?
Yeah, I think Rufo does a great job during the week of really studying his opponent, and, come Saturday, he's extremely steady. He's not one of those guys that gets super excited or low if he either makes or misses a play. So very consistent, and he's one of the driving factors for our defense.
Another driving factor has been the freshman Jackson Saffold. He's been mighty good. It was just added to the Jerry Rice watch list, I believe. Kind of talk about him and how he's hit the ground running for you guys.
Right. It's kind of, it reminds me of how many years we've been doing this, Jeremy. Isaac Saffold is the defensive end from Chicago Forest. Jackson was a really good running back back in the day. As you were saying that, I was checking my own recollection. So hopefully I won't start coughing again on you. He's done a great job. Isaac is somebody that is from Chicago originally, did a PG year up at Petty, and we knew when we recruited him that he had a chance to come in and impact our defense right away. Extremely explosive player. And he's a fierce competitor. Some of his best plays are downfield where he's tracking the ball. And he had some great plays for us against Colgate this past weekend.
Thanks for the assist there, Coach. You talk about explosiveness. That ties into this week's opponent. You guys had that classic last year up at Christy Mathewson against Bucknell, where Bucknell, they rally from 22 down. You guys put together a drive to get it into overtime, end up winning the game 50-47. What do you remember about that shootout in the Valley?
Now I was happy to get on the bus and get back to DC with a win. That's it's a classic battle for us going back and forth with Bucknell. 2 years ago at our own place, that the game came down to a 2-minute drive that Bucknell was successful on. So, two very evenly matched football teams. That was a great game because the momentum swings in that game were incredible. And it was great to see our kids really stick together on the sideline and fight that thing through all the way down to the last play. With Josh Stapley, scoring from the 2-yard line and put us in the victory.
Coach, Ralph Rucker, their standout quarterback, was big in that game. He got knocked around in the Penn game, missed last week, kind of his status up in the air this week. As a coach, and again, a guy who has a defensive background, how do you prepare a team for not knowing who the other team's signal caller might be?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. We've had a couple of openers that are that way with new staffs, and it's a little bit of a coaching cliche, but especially coming off the Colgate game, we're really worried about ourselves. Their offense coordinator, John Bear, we know very well. He was here at Georgetown. He does an excellent job. So I don't think, based on the Cornell film, that they'll be very different. Their style is the same. I think the schemes they're running are very similar. They had a very successful day against Cornell after being down early and rallied late. So, for us, I think some of the film from earlier in the year still holds true, and we'll prepare for both quarterbacks.
Coach, I know you never get too specific, but some keys against a tough Bucknell team coming in this weekend.
Honestly, Jeremy, it's good that we only use the same three because I can remember them, right? We're being able to run the football and stop the run is primary. Taking care of the football, the turnovers in the Colgate game and in the Lafayette game, if you're really talking about a win and a loss, are critical. And then the last thing is the explosives. Bucknell is a very explosive offense. And you want to make sure that you're going to limit their opportunities as well as give ourselves as many chances to get the ball into the hands of our receivers, into Jimmy Kibble and Nick Dunneman, for our running backs with Bryce Cox, Uday, and Savion Hart, all doing a good job. So, those are the three things that we key into every week, and the things that we measure and we try to manage and try to get ourselves set so we can have success in those three areas each weekend.
Now time to transition over to our Sitting Down with Sgar spotlight, and we bring on a guy so important to the Georgetown program, co-founder of Kiss We Mobile, longtime executive at AOL, also adjunct professor at Georgetown, and the guy they call Uncle Jimmy, a key member of the Hoya athletic family, Jimmy Lynn. Thank you so much for joining Sitting Down with Sgar.
Thank you, Jeremy. It's great to join you and Coach Scarlotta.
Yeah, we could go over your bio forever, Jimmy. We'd be here for another 60 minutes. Again, if you want to know more about Jimmy, the former Washington quarterback Gus Frerotte did a great interview with Jimmy where he kind of lays out his amazing life story. But let's kind of get into your Georgetown story, Jimmy. How did you get involved with Georgetown, the university, and the athletic programs?
I was at a Wizards game back in 2005, and after the game, I was at a lounge across the street, and I met some students that were NBA students from Georgetown. They asked what I do, and I said I was a VP of sports partnerships at AOL, and their face lit up. And they said, hey, next month we're having a career day in marketing. Would you be one of the speakers? So I was one of 14 speakers. And the following week, they told me I was voted the top speaker. And the marketing chair said, we have a sports marketing strategy class here. The professor's leaving. I have an opening. Would you be open to teaching it? And now I'm in the 20th year of teaching that course.
And that's wonderful. And then, of course, that led into your connection to the sports programs. Again, you've got a sports background, so it seems like a natural fit. But how did that come about?
Yeah, so there's a person, Matt Winkler, who's a good friend. I'm a mentor to him. And he had this idea to create a new type of sports management program using all adjunct faculty, using sports practitioners. And we launched that in 2008. And within a couple of years, we built that into the largest program in the world. But most importantly, that's one of the places I met Coach Sgar, because the coaches can take the class. And Coach Sgar was sitting there in the front row with his notebook, always asking questions. And that's where our friendship really blossomed.
Coach, let's bring you on this. Jimmy kind of got how you guys met, but how important has Jimmy been to your program and the success as you try to build this thing up on the hilltop?
I say it in many different forms, but the people make Georgetown a really special place. And when you look at a lot of people say they'll do different things for your program or for your players, and that's because it makes them feel great in the moment. Jimmy's one of those people who follows up and is involved in every aspect of our program, from recruiting to mentoring our current players to actually the way we met. And I'm really lucky to be at Georgetown is, my superpowers, I know I don't know. So I try and surround myself with as many really smart people, successful people as possible. So, our relationship started with me asking Jimmy for advice, how to run our program, how to structure some of our personnel, how to, manage our coaches and players and recruit. And he's been there with me every step of the way. So I'm extremely grateful.
Jimmy, I've seen in some of your talks and interviews that you've said that your ability to kind of connect people is one of your greatest attributes, and it kind of dates all the way back to when you were a kid on a military base back in Japan. How important has that kind of part been when it comes to helping not only the kids you mentor, but also kids on the football team, and maybe getting guys to consider Georgetown a little bit?
No, it's very important, Jeremy. I mean, I think I was a young teenager playing sports in Japan. I lived there 13 of my first 16 years, growing up on U.S. military bases, having a Japanese mother and American father. And I was always like, I don't know, sort of a connector type between the other American schools we played in Japan and other Japanese teams. And it just blossomed over time. And that was really my primary role at AOL, was being a major connector and helping building our sports business in a big way. And I've transferred those skills from Georgetown to from AOL to both Georgetown and to our company, Kiswe.
Jimmy, I know you so well from your work with the Georgetown poly contingent on the football team. A lot of guys with poly backgrounds, a lot of kids, first generation kids, which is a passion for you when it comes to kids at Georgetown. How important is that group to you?
It's at the top. Really, really important. I think growing up in Japan, going to school with kids of mixed Asian race, a lot of poly kids from Hawaii and California. I've always been comfortable around the Samoans and the Tongans and the mixed Asian races. So it's been very comfortable. But to me, it was really at my mother's funeral in 2017 at Fort Myer. You expect your friends and relatives to show up. And when 15 football players show up, the women's basketball team shows up, coaches show up, deans show up, president's office, that really cemented how close I am with Georgetown. And I met a couple of the poly kids on their recruiting visit when they were high schools, Talati and Sam, and then Josh joined them. We made an immediate connection. I found a poly restaurant in Alexandria. We went there and got the spam musabi. And those kids, usually kids will be seniors at Georgetown before they'll hug you and say, I love you. But from the beginning, Sam and Talati, every time, he always had a hug, always have I love you. They always sent texts, just grateful kids. And the relationship is so strong and it's genuine. And it just grown tremendously over the last 5 years.
Sgar, let's bring you back in. One thing I've noticed about the kids, the poly kids that Jimmy mentors, is they're just upstanding citizens, but they're great leaders for your team too. How important has it been to get those guys, not only the talent they're bringing to the field, but that kind of leadership that they help bring to your squad?
It's extremely important. I think it crystallizes some of the things that we are trying to set with our standard and in what it takes to be successful here. You have to be able to handle a lot of different things, and you need to have support to do that. So, they honestly, in recruiting, they remind me of my family growing up in a big Irish Italian family, and it's family first. Everything's about the kids and education. And for me to be able to bring those kids here and bring them into the Georgetown football family, as well as the Georgetown community as a whole, has been great. And I've learned a lot from them, and we'll continue to have that as a priority for us as we're recruiting.
We'll close it out on this one, Jimmy. Another thing I took from a couple of your interviews is you talked about grit. And that was such a key attribute in your life and just kind of getting through things and keep pushing on. And I would have to think, again, you are a guy that not only the poly kids, you have been big in mentoring Georgetown students of color, first generation students who may not have the resources that others do. How important has it been to get your message of grit out to the kids that you mentor?
It's at the top. To me, a real highlight was last week. My best friend, who I met in 7th grade in Japan, who had moved from Hawaii to Japan, he came to visit. He's the founder of JSTOR. He was in town for a conference, and I said he's going to stay at my house. I said, "Can you come early? Because I want you to meet the poly family." And Kevin changed his schedule to come meet the Poly kids. And, Coach Sgar always talks about 4 for 40. And I use Kevin. I've been using Kevin as an example to the Georgetown mentees for the last decade. He's Princeton class of 84, all-time leading receiver. Just amazing person. He's changed lives in so many ways. But his parents, his father was a 4-star general, was my second father, who taught me at a young age about treating everyone equally well, regardless of race, rank, or religion. And as I toasted, we had a dinner in Georgetown with Kevin and 8 of the Polys. And as I said, this is, as I told you, General Guthrie's legacy, even though he passed away in 2009, lives on in the lives of my mentees. And it's just a really, really cool fit. And Kevin had gone to Punahou in 6th and 7th grade, where Barack Obama went. And that's, you guys mentioned Giancarlo Rufo before that, but Rufo's a Punahou kid. And I remember walking back with Kaysen and Cindy, 2 of our kids from Hawaii, and Kaysen says to me, he's like, "Uncle, out of all your friends, Kevin's the coolest. He's got that aloha spirit." And for me, that cemented everything.
Well, Jimmy, you have been such a credit to this Georgetown program, also the Georgetown Athletics, also Georgetown University, and also, folks, if you don't know, Jimmy had a little hand in bringing Julius Halfana on campus too, a guy who's going to do some big things for the basketball program as well. Jimmy Lynn, thank you so much for joining Sitting Down with Scar, and thank you for all the great work you do for the Hoyas.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Coach Scarletta.
That'll wrap it up for our show today. Coach, good luck this weekend against Bucknell.
Thanks so much.
That'll wrap it up for another edition of Sitting Down with Scar. Remember, Georgetown hosts Bucknell on Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern kickoff. See it in person if you're in the DMV, or watch online at ESPN+. Thanks to Coach Scarlotta, our guest, the incomparable Jimmy Lynn, and producer Eliza Kravitz. That's all for Sitting Down with Scar. I'm Jeremy Huber. Hoya Saxa.